Hey everyone, time for another throwback review right here on ARTV. My name's John and let's talk about Franz Ferdinand and their debut self-titled album. It came out in 2004 and actually picked up the Mercury Prize over in the UK. They're a band that's from Scotland originally, but they gained fame worldwide thanks to some of the songs on this very album. Most prominently, you know it, Take Me Out. That's the song that was voted one of the hottest of all time by many publications, including myself. One of my favorite songs ever. Just such a great groove to it, and it stands even above its peers on this very album. It's such a legendary song. It has a lot of build up to it. It gives you that kind of out lurking on the town type of vibe, and the way that it has that stomping drum rhythm and the way that it plays off of that jagged guitar riff and its kind of cocky lyrics, it's something that was the cornerstone and the foundation for this debut album. The reason why it works so well. I actually discovered Franz Ferdinand because of this song being used in a PSP commercial. Roll it! Not only did it want to make me buy a PSP, but it made me want to buy the band's album. This was actually before I had truly started getting into music, like 04, maybe early 05, and it was around March 2005 when I actually started purchasing and downloading stuff for myself. So Take Me Out was one of those first songs that really piqued my curiosity. Now right after that, I heard This Fire because I had the game Burnout 3. That's right, another soundtrack that introduced me to something. Now you guys ask me often, by the way, about film soundtracks and that sort of thing. Like, John, why don't you talk about more film soundtracks? Because I don't want to sound like a total noob, okay? I don't really know what I'm talking about whenever it comes to film. I'll occasionally review a movie, but especially film scores and soundtracks, that's not me. Coming out in 2004, this is around the time whenever dance and rock were starting to collide, using forces of 80s new wave, modern alternative, and rock and roll. Franz Ferdinand really crafted something special, and on this record, I think it's very noteworthy that there's so many standout bass lines. It rollicks, it pummels, it does a little bit of everything. It's funky and it makes you want to move, but it can also be a little bit more intimidating and in your face. The drum rhythms are also very disco dipped and driven, and that's something that can get slightly annoying to me. That's one problem that I do have with this record, and while many hail this as being one of the best albums of the 2000s, I definitely love it, but I don't think I feel quite that strongly about it. Don't get my words twisted, I love this record and I think that it definitely deserves to go down as one of the modern albums that influenced so many other people and just holds such a special place in society. But I'm not sure if I like this album or the follow-up more. I really love their second album, You Could Have It So Much Better. Released just a year later, they managed to capitalize and strike while the fire was hot and not just rush the release. So that was something that was so special, and maybe it's just because that was actually the first full length that I bought with my own money and listened to a little bit more, but I think that one really just holds a little bit more of a special place to me, but they're definitely neck and neck, very close. The self-titled album has an attitude about it, and you can definitely see that pouring into the very first track. It oozes throughout the album, but on Jacqueline, the opening moment that we have here, we see them talking over a slow guitar, something that's a little bit more sultry. It leads you in with just Alex's vocals, and then we actually get to that bass line, the rollicking chorus, where they talk about how vacation is so much better, and they only work whenever they need the money. And it's something that comes across very playful, very tongue-in-cheek, and you can tell that obviously they're passionate about their music. They're not phoning it in, they're not just here for the paycheck, but at the same time, it's really fun to see this sense about Franz Ferdinand. And as this album continues, you see those great instrumentals continuing, but at the same time, some of the tracks can be a bit hard to differentiate between, considering the drums are often very disco-tinged, like I mentioned, the guitar leads, some of the bass, it just kind of pumps in the same manner, and that's great for just kind of continuous listening, but for standout tracks, I would say there's about 6 to 7 that really jump off the page, and then some of the others colors just kind of blend. You're probably wondering, John, why now? Why are you reviewing this album now? And I was actually inspired to cover this record because they have new material on the way. Their new album is coming out in February of 2018, just around the corner, or else maybe it's out whenever you're watching this video. If so, then let me know how it turned out in the comment section down below. Always Ascending is out in the world now, so I just figured that I would do my part to build hype for the record by reviewing one of their older albums. And people are saying this new track, oh, it's so different and they finally switched it up. And I'm seeing kind of a full circle effect actually, because this new song, which I really like, called Always Ascending, it has kind of that disco synth dip spirit about it. It's something that I already mentioned on this very album, that disco flavor. Yes, there's plenty of new wave, plenty of rock and alternative on this record, plenty of moments that I'll get to in just a minute, but honestly, I do see this as not being something that's just totally strange to them, like, oh, they've never hinted at maybe they would do this someday. I think it fits them, and I hope they continue this sound with the album. Cheating on You is a blast of fun. What a chorus on that song. The Dark of the Matinee is a sing-along, and I absolutely love the appeal of that song in terms of that atmosphere that you're just kind of drawn into. It's almost like you're sitting in the cinema as the story unfolds. Michael has a great kind of funny storyline to it, and it's kind of a homoerotic type thing, and that's definitely the vibe that I picked up on, especially with a song called Michael and all the things that they're getting into as he kind of witnesses these events go down at the club. It was written about a couple of friends of his, and I love the way that it plays out. It's just kind of a fun romp and an unexpected song that I didn't truly get until years later. Come On Home has unexpectedly become a top favorite of mine. I've had this album for a long time now, and it's not something that I'm necessarily always listening to, but I've heard it plenty of times. But this one just started standing out to me even more whenever I got back to this, really in preparation for this review. And I think it's really a kind of genius song on several different levels, not just because of its lyrics and its melody, but just the musicianship period on this song. I love the verses and how they kind of keep you in suspense leading up to the chorus, and everything slowly unravels, not in the sense that the song starts falling apart, but in the sense that you actually start piecing everything together. I feel like sometimes a song like this gets overlooked because just around the corner you've got the closing moment 40, which is a fantastic song. I love that track, and it's just got a great bass line on it, a great lyrical approach and vocal approach on there. I love Alex on that track behind the mic. He sounds fantastic, and the way that the guitars take off. So obviously, plenty to get excited about and write home about on 40. But just before that, let's not forget that we have Come On Home, another amazing moment, and just a nice 1-2 combo to close out this record. It's really one of those albums that does hook you from start to finish. Even if you don't feel passionately about every single song, there's not really tracks to just label as weak, because even though I might not like a song as much, like Tell Her Tonight, the vocals get a little bit pitchy in places for me, and the chorus, I just picture somebody just kind of swaying back and forth with their guitar, gonna have to tell her tonight. I mean, I like that song, but it grates on me just after a while, and I know that'll probably set some people off, but that's just how I feel. Darts of Pleasure was the lead single and is a great song. I failed to mention that one, and I do apologize for that, but I feel like it kind of goes without stating that that is the song that kind of set things off, and it did get eclipsed by Take Me Out, but it still deserves praise, and it still deserves your attention to this day. This Fire was the final single released from that, and I already mentioned I love that song from an early age. I love the choppy guitars on this, and just the effect that they give it. There's a lot of urgency, especially once we get to the whole Burn This City thing, and those guitars keep kind of going throughout, and I like the way that they cycle in and out in intensity. This is a really good album overall. I'm not like head over heels in love with the entire project, but there's many songs that I would say that I absolutely do feel that way about. There's a great chemistry in this band, and that was sensed from a very early age. They started in 2002, and by 2004, they were conquering, taking on the world, and I miss music like this. It was the time of 2004 whenever The Killers, Franz Ferdinand, other other bands that kind of went with this similar style of blending some of that new wave, a little bit of electronic, but not really, and then alternative. And we didn't really see that with Franz Ferdinand yet, but it still had a very danceable quality to it, a little bit of post-punk in there as well. So for me personally, this is a very, very enjoyable album. Definitely not one of my all-time favorites, but another solid one in the canon nonetheless. Maybe someday I'll talk about another one of theirs if you would like to see it. For me personally, I'm gonna give this a very strong 4 out of 5. Have you revisited this album recently? Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below, and if you've never heard it before, there will be a link to stream it on Spotify. Guys, if you like the throwback reviews, please help me out by hitting the like button on this video. Tell me that you like the throwbacks in the comments section and suggest other ones that you would like to see me do. And if you are able to, please support on Patreon. It really does help videos like this keep coming, because a lot of the times just the throwbacks are going to be passion projects. They're not going to be something that are going to attract the most views or anything like that. They're going to be albums that I'm challenging myself to either go back to, listen to, rediscover, etc., etc. And my goal right now is just to find one new album every week. And even if I don't always get a review out, I want to hear things that I haven't heard in a while, or else challenge myself to take on a big album or an important album that I've just never heard before. Thanks again for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future uploads, and because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed, if you would like to see another Franz Ferdinand review, right words, right thoughts, right action, it's right here. Another recent review right over here, socials in the description, and I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.